They've mocked me, but by the end of today, they'll regret underestimating me.
In the heart of a busy village in eastern Nigeria, nestled between rolling hills and sparkling rivers, lived a young woman named Amaka. She was unlike any bride the villagers had ever seen, not because of her beauty, which was undeniable, but because of her size. Amaka was plump, with curves that made her movements graceful yet commanding. Her laughter, rich and warm, could light up even the darkest corner of the village. And yet this very thing made her the subject of endless gossip. From the market stalls to the riverbanks, whispers followed her. "She will never attract a good husband," the women said, clutching their babies tightly. "Who would want to marry her?" the men joked, smirking behind her back. Even some relatives, those who should have loved her, shook their head in disapproval. They pitied her, but beneath the pity hid judgment. Amaka, however, held no bitterness. She lived with her grandmother, Mama Nikichi, who often reminded her, "Beauty is what the heart carries, child. Let them see your strength and the world will bow." And Amaka believed it. Then came the day she met Chike, a young man from the neighboring town. Unlike the villagers, Chike saw Amaka for who she truly was. Her intelligence, her laughter, her unwavering kindness. They drew him to her. Soon, he proposed, and Amaka's heart danced with joy. But the villagers were not pleased. When the wedding was announced, they scoffed openly. Some vowed not to attend. Others whispered cruel predictions. Even the bride's own distant cousins giggled when they saw her wedding gown, claiming it could never hide her size. Yet Amaka did not falter. She knew the day of her wedding would be the day of revelation, though the villagers could not imagine what she had planned. Little did they know, behind her gentle smile and graceful demeanor lay a plan that would leave the village speechless, turning their laughter into astonishment. The day of the wedding arrived, and the air was thick with anticipation, curiosity, and doubt. Everyone in the village, even those who said they would not attend, somehow found themselves drawn to the grand hall. They wanted to see the fat bride walk down the aisle. What they were about to witness would shatter every expectation they had held. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and golden, but the village buzzed with unease. Whispers swirled through the streets like wind in dry leaves. "Have you seen the bride? How will she fit through the aisle?" some murmured. Others snickered openly, making bets on whether she would even make it down the aisle without tripping. Inside her room, Amaka sat quietly before a mirror, her hands smoothing the intricate lace of her wedding gown. She was calm, almost serene, while outside, the gossip raged. Mama Nkechi sat beside her, adjusting her veil with care. "Ignore them, child," she said softly. "They do not know what is coming." Amaka nodded but allowed a small smile to cross her face. She had prepared for this moment for years, knowing that the villagers' ridicule would be her stage. Every cruel word, every sneer she had endured had fueled her determination. Today, she would reveal that their mockery was meaningless. Meanwhile, Chike was already waiting at the altar, a mix of pride and nervousness in his eyes. He had never loved anyone like he loved Amaka, and he knew she was about to astonish everyone. The villagers began arriving, some out of obligation, others out of curiosity. They stared at the grand decorations, the colorful fabrics, and finally, toward the bride's entrance. Then the music started, a slow, rhythmic drumbeat that echoed through the hall. Heads turned, conversations halted. Every eye was on the doorway as Amaka stepped forward, her figure glowing under the morning sun streaming through the windows. The whispers grew softer, replaced by an almost tangible tension. Everyone expected awkwardness, stumbling, maybe embarrassment. What they did not expect was confidence. Amaka walked as if she owned the room, every step deliberate, every glance commanding attention. And as she approached the altar, a hush fell over the crowd. Even the harshest critics could not tear their eyes away. Something extraordinary was about to unfold, and the villagers had no idea that the bride they had mocked would soon leave them speechless. The villagers had gathered in the courtyard, their faces a mixture of curiosity and thinly veiled judgment. Mothers clutched their children, elderly men leaned on their canes, and even the local chief whispered to his aides, wondering how Amaka would endure the scrutiny. They had come expecting a spectacle of embarrassment, not grace. The music shifted, a low rhythmic chant that seemed to pulse through every heart in the crowd. And then, from the far end of the courtyard, Amaka appeared, not walking, but gliding forward. Her gown sparkled in the sunlight, its fabric embroidered with gold threads that caught the eyes of everyone present. She held her head high, her smile serene, and for a moment, the villagers felt a strange hesitation. Some of the unkind women nudged each other. "She looks regal," one whispered, unable to hide her astonishment. Others simply frowned, trying to maintain their skepticism, but Amaka was not concerned with their opinions. Her eyes were on Chiki, who waited at the altar with awe etched into his face. Then came the first gasp. At the center of her gown, hidden until this moment, was a brilliantly embroidered pattern depicting the village itself, the market, the river, even the little huts where everyone lived. It was intricate, alive with color and detail, and it drew everyone's eyes. Every insult they had ever hurled at her now seemed petty in the face of such artistry. Amaka paused for just a heartbeat, then continued forward. Each step was measured, almost ceremonial. The whispers turned into murmurs of admiration, tinged with disbelief. How could someone they had mocked so mercilessly appear so confident, so commanding, so majestic? By the time she reached the altar, the courtyard was silent. Every eye followed her, every heart unconsciously acknowledging that something extraordinary was unfolding. And though no one yet knew the full surprise, the seed of astonishment had already been planted. As Amaka reached the altar, the villagers stared in stunned silence. Chike's eyes shone with pride, but the crowd still struggled to process what they were seeing. Every expectation they had carried that morning, awkwardness, embarrassment, clumsiness, had been shattered. Then Amaka spoke. Her voice was calm, but carried a power that made the whispers fade instantly. "I know many of you doubted me," she said, her gaze sweeping across the crowd. "Some laughed, some pitied me, and some even plotted to humiliate me today. But I am not here for your approval. I am here to share love, joy, and truth." The villagers shifted uncomfortably. No one had ever heard her speak like this before. Her words were sharp, yet gentle, cutting through their prejudice without a trace of anger. And then, the moment came. With a graceful movement, Amaka lifted the hem of her gown, revealing not just a stunning pair of golden anklets, but a secret that had been hidden from the village all along. Beneath her dress, she had sewn small pouches filled with rare herbs, charms, and little coins. A collection of gifts from every woman and child she had helped in the village over the years. Gasps erupted. Some villagers stepped back, shocked by her foresight and generosity. Others' jaws dropped as they realized the bride they had mocked was far wiser and stronger than they could have imagined. She knelt before the altar, scattering the pouches in front of the villagers. "These are for you," she said. "For those who underestimated kindness, courage, and heart. May you see the value in people before judging them." The whispers turned to murmurs of awe. The women who had laughed at her size were now speechless. The men who had mocked her confidence could not look her in the eye. Amaka had not just walked down the aisle. She had rewritten the rules of respect and admiration in the village. The courtyard was silent, save for the gentle rustling of Amaka's gown. The villagers could barely move, their eyes fixed on the bride who had turned ridicule into awe. The older women, who had whispered cruel predictions for years, now felt a pang of shame. They looked at one another, unable to speak. Even the men who had mocked her confidence shifted uneasily on their feet. Chike stepped closer, holding Amaka's hand firmly. "She has always been extraordinary," he said, his voice steady, though filled with emotion. "And now, everyone can see it." At that moment, a small child from the crowd ran forward, clutching a hand-stitched doll that Amaka had given her months ago. "I made this for you," the child said shyly. The villagers watched as Amaka knelt, accepting the gift with a radiant smile, her eyes sparkling with warmth and humility. It was then that the full impact of her gestures sank in. Every pouch of herbs, every charm, every coin had been a silent testament to her kindness. While the villagers had been busy mocking her appearance, she had been quietly helping the very people who now stared at her in shock. The whispers of derision that had filled the air just moments before were replaced by murmurs of admiration. I didn't know," one woman stammered, tears welling in her eyes. "We judged her so unfairly." Even the elders, who prided themselves on wisdom, nodded slowly. The realization hit them all at once. Beauty and worth were not measured by appearance, but by heart, courage, and action. Amaka stood, her gaze sweeping across the crowd. For the first time, the villagers saw her not as the fat bride, but as a force of strength and grace. The wedding day had begun with ridicule, but it was ending with revelation. And for those who had doubted her, it was a lesson they would never forget. Just as murmurs of admiration began to settle, Amaka raised her hands and smiled. "There's one more gift," she said. From beneath her gown, she pulled out a small, intricately carved box. The crowd leaned in, curiosity burning in every eye. Opening it, she revealed a collection of golden coins and tiny charms, each engraved with the name of a villager. Every single person who had ever mocked her, doubted her, or whispered cruel words. "These are for you," she said softly. "Not as revenge, but as a reminder. Judgment without understanding only blinds the heart." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The very villagers who had sneered at her now felt their cheeks burn with shame. They could not hide their astonishment as they realized the depth of her kindness, courage, and wisdom. Chike took her hand, and together they smiled at the crowd. The wedding that began with ridicule had transformed into a celebration of respect, love, and humility. From that day on, Amaka was no longer known as the fat bride. She was revered as a woman who had taught an entire village the true meaning of beauty and left them speechless. And in that moment, every doubter learned a lesson they would carry for a lifetime.